Welcome to Trigger Talk, your place for everything first-person shooters like Battlefield, Call of Duty, and so much more. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Ready to chat some first-person shooters today, and on that note, we're going to talk about Project Ethos and this idea of our hero shooters dead. So, let's jump in. So it's been a little bit. Technical issues have been abound, as well as some personal stuff that just kind of kept the podcast delayed. But we're back at it. We're ready to rock and roll as we get into peak shooter season with Call of Duty coming to Game Pass and all this stuff. And apparently there's a new video game called Project Ethos, which is supposedly a first-person shooter live service described as a roguelike hero shooter. It is definitely a game.
Yeah, that is one way to describe it.
It's developed by 2K and what is it, 31st Street or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think so.
31st Union.
Oh, that's
it looks very much like described in the the comments of this the generic, what is it, corporation the game.
Yeah, that was
what it's described as. It looks almost exactly like Fortnite. Similar play style, similar kind of animations, similar like camera angle. All of it seems to be in this like cartoon aesthetic world, very colorful, very saturated, and like legit just looks like Fortnite.
It genuinely does. Like as I've watched through this trailer, the first bit of it looked like genuinely it was just Fortnite. And I said before we started recording, I was like, if you told me Fortnite got an engine update and it looked a bit different than it used to, I would probably believe that that's it, because it's so similar, even them like flying down to the ground and everything. And then as I get through the gameplay, it's even more, kind of even looks a bit Overwatchy. Like there's a lot of, it looks like very much the hero shooter elements. Even I guess probably more like Marvel Rivals actually than Overwatch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of just looks like a big jumble of like everything that exists already, but worse. So
imagine you ran a video game through ChatGPT. You took all of the video games that have been popular over the last probably 7-8 years. First, and then you said, hey, review this, and then you put in the prompt, create me a roguelike hero shooter in the style of Fortnite.
Yeah, that is a great way to sum it up.
Probably what you would get.
Yeah, legit. It does just look like they kind of just went, instead of having any like creativity themselves, they were like, all right, let's just pick each mechanic from a different game and we'll just put that in here. And then, it's really just a big jumble of every single game. And like, I mean, to be fair, if all those games are popular and they're good, then yeah, it's not to say that it's going to be like a terrible game. It's just that it's, I don't know. There's a lot of games out there that, look at that Concord game, right? That from every thing that I'd heard about it, it wasn't even a bad game. It was just that it was just a carbon copy of Overwatch, essentially, with like worse character design and stuff. And I think people are just sick of that. I think we want people actually being creative and doing stuff that's a bit more, I don't know, a bit like out there isn't maybe the right way to put it, but just trying to be,
there needs to be some risks. Creativity.
Yeah, like I think everyone just tries to play it so safe these days because they're like, there's obviously so much money involved and everything, and it just results in everyone playing it too safe like this, where it's just literally they just have got all the mechanics from different games and they're like, well, this can't fail because like it's proven in all the other games, so it's going to be good in this one. Whereas, I mean, that's not really how it works, and I'm almost certain this game will be an absolute flop. So realistically, it's actually the polar opposite of like what they're thinking is going to happen, I guess, because they think it's like the safe play, but it really isn't. It's actually
It's the safe play to put background noise in what
Yeah.
everyone else is doing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be be interesting to see what happens if it's. Do we know if this is free to play? I have to assume it is. No one's paying for that, surely.
It's just a play test right now,
Okay.
but I would assume that it's free to play. Yeah, it doesn't look like they have any details on their website. It's just sign up now to get on the play test. I also popped in the Discord chat
Yes.
2 images generated by ChatGPT.
Did you just generate them just now?
Yeah, I just said
my
generic
God.
third-person shooter game in the style of Fortnite, and it gave me
top
2
one
options.
Looks literally identical.
Yeah,
And is that not the dude from Team Fortress 2 in the background?
yeah,
The
it looks
bottom
exactly
right?
like it.
What the hell?
Yeah. I do not condone the use of AI image generation for any purposes. I think it
Other
is a
than
scourge
memeing.
on creativity. Yeah.
Like this, where you're just taking the piss out of AI. And that's the ironic part.
If you're using it to criticize corporate greed within the game industry, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, for people that are listening, this is a like very saturated character with like a bunch of unnecessary gear on them, a crazy haircut, and for some reason a gaming headset that is on.
Yeah. And red
with
high
like
tops
a
as well.
high tops. Literally like the Team Fortress 2 character in the background, and
There's a
looks
spaceship
exactly
up
like the
top.
gameplay. Yeah.
Did you see that? Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
And the second one looks more like PUBG-esque.
Yeah. It's like cartoon
but-
PUBG kind of.
Yeah, like cartoon PUBG.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Which is just mental because it does, like, yeah, if you said to me that was like concept art of this or something, I probably would believe that.
Yeah.
It looks similar enough. Maybe not so much like the setting of it, but everything else looks similar enough that I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. That must be real.
Yeah. Yeah. So this game looks very generic, but I wanted to use this as an idea to talk about like hero shooters in the FPS space. I think there's some benefit to them, but I kind of think that it's time in the sun, other than like the big ones. I'd say like Overwatch and Apex, I think, are the clearest examples. What's interesting is those have like either taken an idea and developed it further, which is like Overwatch, or utilizing this idea of a hero shooter, but adapting it into a creative use case, which is Apex.
Yeah. That's the situation where like that's what this type of game should be doing. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with taking an idea and sort of running with it, but yeah, evolving on it or using it. It could be just a carbon copy, but using it in a different way than we'd seen, even for example, like Apex, where it's not that different of a hero shooter, but the fact that it's in a BR, we hadn't seen that. That was like the first of its kind. And so, yeah, that's the type of thing that these games need to do. And unfortunately, they just don't. They just cherry pick. Instead of sort of picking one thing and going, all right, that's like the premise of our game, and we're going to like evolve that and then focus the game around that. Instead of doing that, it's just, all right, let's pick this thing from that game, this thing from the other game, and this thing as well, and jumble it together and not improve any of them. Like, especially this game, it actually just looks worse than the others. Like, it just looks like Fortnite, but bad. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. If you're going to take an idea,
we have
have to do
Fortnite
it
at home.
better. Yeah, legit. So, yeah, that's my main complaint, really, is that if you're going to, I actually think there's no problem with sort of using other people's ideas if you improve it or, take it to the next step. If you take Fortnite and you can manage to make a better Fortnite, I don't see an issue with that personally, but because that's literally how the whole world works. Like, everything's been thought of at this point. So,
yeah,
you got to take ideas from somewhere. You got to get inspiration from somewhere. But if you just do it and it's just worse, then yeah, you're not really doing yourself any favors.
Yeah, creativity in the FPS space is interesting because there is a lot of like copy and paste your homework kind of stuff going on, especially if you look at the live service world, the free to play live service world of FPS games. A lot of it's just looking the exact same. Like for the longest period, I thought the Finals and X Defiant were the same game.
Yeah.
Obviously, visually they look different, but idealistically they're pretty much the same when you boil it down to it. So there's a lot of stuff like that, which is very much the same. But you have these standouts, like you have these experiments where they're testing things. I think Marvel Rivals is a good example of this. Like all the gameplay I've seen of that looks very interesting to me. It looks like it's a fun interpretation because it's something that we don't usually get. We don't see, first of all, we don't see superhero games all that frequently. Secondly, if we do get superhero games, we almost never see them as like an online live service game. Even more special is the fact that this is an online live service first-person shooter. So it's different from even like the Guardians of the Galaxy game or the Avengers Assemble game or whatever, where it was kind of like this mix style game. So there's stuff like that where it's actually taking this idea and moving it forward in an interesting way.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I think the thing with Rivals is that it does get that little bit of leeway that it's a Marvel game. If you just remove the Marvel license and it was just generic shooters, I think it wouldn't even do that well. But the fact that it's such a beloved franchise, that kind of gives them a bit of leeway that they don't have to do anything crazy different, and it's still going to bring in people. Because if you just make Overwatch but Marvel, it's going to do well. But they have even still done a few things in that game that are pretty unique. They've got like these team up moves that are almost feels like it's out of an old school like fighting game, like a Street Fighter or something, where you, depending on the character you're playing as, so if you're playing as Spider-Man, the characters in Spider-Man's universe, I guess, can do team ups with him. So Venom, and like let's just say we're playing together and you're Venom and I'm Spider-Man, because of that you can make me symbiote Spider-Man because of the way that they intertwine. So cool things like that, where it's not it doesn't massively affect the gameplay, but it's like they're at least doing something different. That I haven't seen that personally. I don't know. I don't play Overwatch in all those games, but I haven't seen anything like that in those games. And so at least, again, they're doing something that's been done like in Overwatch, but they are slightly evolving on it. Plus they do just, like I said, get that little bit of like, I guess, just leniency in that. Yes, it's not crazy different than Overwatch, but it is Marvel, and that's the selling point more than it's doing something new. Like it doesn't need to do anything, massive to do well, because it's one of the biggest franchises in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you just need to have something creative. You need to more. I mean, yeah, you can look at it and be like, yeah, they are doing like certain things creatively, but I think a big part of it is you need to be more intentionally upfront creative. Like our first impression with this, whether or not the actual mechanics are exactly like Fortnite, my first impression with this is like, oh, look, it's Fortnite, without anything. But when I look at Marvel Rivals, it's like, oh, okay, that's like, intrinsically it's like, oh, so this is Overwatch with Marvel characters. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
If it's just like, oh, hey, this is like Fortnite, but it's not Fortnite, I'm not gonna, if I'm playing Fortnite, I'm not going to play this game. And also, if I don't want to play Fortnite, I'm also not going to play this game.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that they compete. Like, I think it's just dumb to compete with Fortnite, because it's like, if there's only two target audiences there. Either A, you want the Fortnite audience, or B, you want the audience that doesn't play Fortnite. And if you're gonna try and take the Fortnite audience, the game needs to be like a lot better than Fortnite. Even if it's a bit better, that doesn't.
It needs to be like 100 times better.
Yeah, because the people have spent so much money on that game and they've been playing it for so long that even if this game was 10% better than Fortnite, it's just, I don't know, I wouldn't. If I'd been playing Fortnite for 10 years, I would not move to another game just because it's 10% better. And so you're not going to do that. No one's going to make a game that is 10 times better than Fortnite at what it does. But then if you're trying to take the other audience, the people that don't play Fortnite, and you're trying to capitalize on the people that aren't playing that game, well, don't make a carbon copy because they don't want to play that game. There's a reason they're not playing Fortnite. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's where this sort of thing just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It reminds me a lot, actually, of Palworld in that it's just like Pokemon from Wish, even though the ironic thing is that Palworld, I think because of the way that Pokemon and like Nintendo are, a lot of people hate, like people who love Pokemon still kind of hate the Pokemon company, and like they've been asking for a game. Yeah, fair enough. And they've been asking for a game like Palworld, not so much with the guns, obviously, but like they've been asking for that
Pokemon, but not Pokemon.
Yeah. And so I can see why Palworld did well, because it was kind of like, all right, well, the Pokemon company isn't going to do it, so this other company's going to do it, and everyone kind of loved it. Plus, it was different enough. You could like build. It was almost a bit of Fortnite in that you could build, buildings and stuff, and it's got guns. It's just very different. But this kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, at least looking at trailers. When I watched trailers for Palworld, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, it's just bad Pokemon. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of the vibe I get from this. It's kind of just the same thing, but Fortnite. It's like, this is just Fortnite made by fans or something, which, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just, to me, it just will not work. I'd be shocked if this game, not that if it's free, you can't really go off sales, but I'd be shocked if it had a big player base and stuff. I just think it's kind of destined to fail, which, like, it's a shame because obviously a lot of people put a lot of time into it. All the developers, I feel bad for them. And like, as its own game, it doesn't look bad. I don't look at this and go, oh, this looks terrible. Looks like it would be, play well and all that kind of thing. It's just that, yeah, you're taking too many ideas from games that you probably just don't want to compete with. It's the same. There's just those untouchable franchises like Fortnite, Call of Duty, FIFA, games like that. You just don't compete with them. Like, it is a monopoly, unfortunately. That's where it's gotten to.
Yeah.
And you just don't, unless you can come in with a freaking $1 billion backing and make a better one, then go right ahead. But no one's going to do that.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see where this game goes. Like, will it actually find an audience? Who knows? Like, I don't know. Like, typically when you create something, you have like a target audience, right? Like, that's typically the path that you go down with any kind of product.
Yeah.
I have no idea who the target audience for this is. Like, if you are into just playing a new first-person shooter every week, maybe, or I don't understand who's going to be playing this over what's already out, because from a hero shooter roguelike is not necessarily something that, like, people that play hero shooters, are they going to be interested in the roguelike aspects? People that play roguelike, are they going to be interested in the hero shooter aspects?
Yeah. And that's the thing where it's like, this could end up being a Palworld, where I do think that game was enough of a jumble of like, well, it's Pokemon but guns, and also it's a bit like Rust and stuff. It's a lot of different, like, not different games, but different entire genres, which is where maybe, like, everyone kind of likes Pokemon, don't they? Everyone knows Pikachu. You don't have to have played the games. Everyone knows what it is. And so when you do that and then you put in the shooter element and you put in the building element, you've got a lot of different areas, I guess a big target audience that you can go after. And so, like you said, maybe enough people who like roguelikes and they don't really play shooters, but they have played shooters before and they find them fun, that sort of thing can end up blowing up. So, yeah, we're going to have to see how it goes. But if I had to put money on it, I'd assume it's not going to do crazy numbers.
Yeah, so this was something that I was interested in learning about, so I had to look it up. Roguelike is a video game genre that combines aspects of role-playing and action-adventure games and is characterized by the following elements: permadeath, procedural generation, turn-based gameplay, grid-based movement, dungeon crawl, and typically high fantasy. Yeah, typically characterized by a dungeon crawl through procedurally generated levels. How is this a roguelike?
Yeah, that's the part I'm confused about, because it looks more just like a typical hero shooter. I'm looking at all the UI for like the...
Yeah. I'm trying to find like the roguelike elements.
Yeah.
And
doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like you can't...
They do have rounds.
Yeah. I don't know how you do a multiplayer roguelike. Personally, I don't...
Yeah.
I don't know. The roguelikes that I've played a little bit of Hades, and I've like The Last of Us had a roguelike. I'm actually not that far off playing the God of War Ragnarok one as well. Like, I don't see how those could be multiplayer. Not in the... You could do the multiplayer as in like co-op, but I don't know how... I'm looking at
how
the
can
UI
you
and
fight
it's like
against each other?
Yeah, like the only way that I can see that working is a mode that's kind of like Frontlines from Battlefield, which that's not a roguelike whatsoever. So, yeah, I don't know. Unless it's like
and confused.
I don't know. Yeah, unless it's some sort of like just replacing the, it's a dungeon crawl type situation, but instead of AI enemies, you're fighting real players, and then if you win that round, you then continue on through, and that team who loses doesn't, maybe similar to the finals where it's kind of like a little tournament. I, again, wouldn't classify that as a roguelike. It's just a tournament.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess there's elements of it in there, but I definitely wouldn't classify any of those that I said as a roguelike. So maybe it's just a buzzword they've put in there to, like, maybe it's just got like 1% of
we
one
need
of those
another
elements.
word. Give me another word.
It's doesn't really make sense to me, but yeah, I guess we'll have to, if it's this early on, then I guess need to see some actual proper gameplay and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is very much like first impressions kind of things. But first impression, typically with live service games, are pretty strong. Typically in the game space, first impressions are pretty accurate. If you look at all of the flops that have happened recently, or all the big controversies and terrible launches, like, I'm pretty sure we called most of these pretty early on.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you the last game that looked phenomenal and came out terrible without people saying it. I think of like Cyberpunk, but we knew just before, like probably in the month or two before launch, that, oh, hang on, this doesn't look finished. So like, I couldn't tell you the last time a game just looked great and then launched and it was like the complete opposite. So like you said, I feel first impressions generally, I think gamers know games now. Like we just if it looks bad, we have a radar for this sort of stuff. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But do you think that hero shooters are dead?
I think it's hard. Like it's really hard to say because I want to say yes, but then
let's maybe
Marvel Rivals
classify it as can there be new hero shooter games?
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's going to dethrone Overwatch. So as long as Overwatch is there, I don't think quote unquote hero shooters will be dead. But I think it's more apt, like, can there be new hero shooter games?
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I say the same thing about Battle Royales. I sort of say that I think BRs are dead, even though obviously Fortnite is like the biggest game in the world. So that's a blatant lie.
Continues to be.
Yeah, I mean it in the sense of, like you said, I don't think new people can make a BR. I think the era of excitement around a new BR is sort of dead. So similar to that, I don't know, everything in me wants to say yes, but then Marvel Rivals looks really good, and I've played so much of the beta, and like I loved it. And I'm not even like a massive, like I enjoy hero shooters, but they're not my go-to. But I was like hooked on it, and so it's hard for me to say yes when that's on the way. But like I said, I think a lot of that is to do with Marvel. It's like, it's so hard to not be excited by a big Marvel multiplayer game. Mm-hmm. And it would be the same as like Star Wars and all that kind of thing. When you have a franchise that big, that kind of guarantees it a fair amount more sales and stuff. So I don't know. I guess technically because of that, I'm going to have to say no, I don't think they're dead. But I think it's bordering on it in the fact that I think you need to like, I think 90% of hero shooters that try to launch will flop completely. I think there's just that one that could sneak through here and there, like a Marvel Rivals. Maybe in another 2 years we get something else that blows up.
Yeah.
I think there was that Deadlock game that, like, I don't know if it came out or I think it was just in early access or something a few months ago, which I didn't play it, but people were talking about it.
That was
like
a Valve game, right?
Yeah. I think that was meant to be, like the next Valve game that's meant to be the next big thing. But even that, there was a lot of people talking about it, but it didn't come across like, oh my God, this is going to be the next, like Valorant or something. So, yeah, it's a very, very hard question. I'm really not sure how to, like, what do you think about it?
I think, obviously, like you said, Marvel Rivals puts a big kind of wrench in the whole idea of this because it is a hero shooter that is coming out soon and more than likely will be successful because it is a Marvel game. And it's also a Marvel first-person or third-person shooter. So, like, it's an FPS. We very rarely get Marvel games, and then even more rarely get them multiplayer, and then even more rarely get them in the shooter genre. So I think all of that combined makes it interesting. In terms of are hero shooters dead? I think no, I guess is like you what I would say if they can add something to the genre, because I think so many people know what hero shooters are. If you look at Apex, it's technically like a hero shooter, but it's a battle royale. And also does some things very interesting in terms of like how you lay out your teams and all of that. So I think because it is intrinsically different, I think there are opportunities for other hero shooters to come out. They just need to be done in the same way that like something like a Marvel Rivals or an Apex Legends. There just needs to be something more than the fact of like, if it's just a generic hero shooter, I don't think that's the move. And obviously with Project Ethos, they're trying to add the roguelike element. But I do wonder, like, is that actually going to be something that's going to make it be successful? Like, is that enough of a difference for it to be successful?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that's the type of thing we need to almost see once it launches. It's impossible to predict that because, for example, let's just say Apex didn't exist and you said right now that, they're going to make a hero shooter, but it's a battle royale. I don't think on paper that would blow me away. And yet it did.
Yeah, the way you said that has me like, nope.
Yeah. And yet, like, and to be fair, it came out obviously like 5 years ago. So it was different back then, but
different times. We didn't have 17 million battle royales.
Yeah. So on paper, it doesn't sound great. This could, if it's actually a deep enough roguelike, but it's multiplayer and it's a hero shooter, like, then maybe it is actually, it's got potential. But I think the thing for me though is that it's actually the art style that makes me uninterested in it because it just looks like Fortnite. If they had have done this exact thing, but it looked a bit different, and then they were like, oh, this is a roguelike hero shooter that didn't look like a carbon copy, I think I'd actually be, not saying I'd be like the first to pre-order it, I just mean I think I'd be a bit interested and go, oh, that sounds interesting. But looking at the gameplay, I'm kind of like, okay, it may be good, but if it looks like this much of a generic copy of the other games, then I guess it just puts my mindset straight away as like, well, this is just going to be like Fortnite from Wish. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes. The whole roguelike element is probably the key to it, because if this is just a straight hero shooter, it'll die with it. Like, look at Concord. That game literally got deleted in 10 days. So, and that, I'll be honest, that looked better than this gameplay wise and stuff. So, yeah, I think that's the key to it. Because if the roguelike element, to be fair, I've watched this trailer that you sent a few times, but it's muted. So I don't know if they're talking about how it works in the background and stuff.
Yeah.
If they actually explain it in depth, and I'm kind of like, oh, that actually sounds interesting, then yeah, maybe it can do well. But I mean, from like the comment section, yeah.
But like
everyone's just like, no.
Yeah. All the comments are saying the exact same thing that we are. Yeah, and like their website doesn't really have much in terms of details around the game.
Mm.
A free-to-play, third-person roguelike hero shooter in development.
The other thing is that it's 2K as well, and 2K has got a pretty bad reputation of...
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of mixed, because they've got a lot of good games, but also, yeah, a lot of their actual NBA 2K, for example, those games it's like FIFA, but basketball. Like, it's just... People can't, even the core player base like hates that game, and it's much the same. I think they just got bought out by freaking who bought 2K? Someone of the like Tencent or someone bought them.
Yeah, I think it's Tencent.
Yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't. If it was like an indie studio, I'd maybe be a bit more.
Take Two Interactive.
Oh, it was Take Two. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was like an indie studio, I'd maybe be a bit more like open, I guess, or like open-minded to it. But the fact that it's 2K and like it's Take Two, that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, company in gaming. So it's like you just know they want money. You know what I mean? That's all they care about. And at face value, it just looks like this is the quickest shortcut to get more money. That's the kind of way that this game looks to me. So we'll have to wait and see. But I hope it succeeds. If that can spark a new little genre, roguelike hero shooter, like that, I'm down for that. If it's done well, but I just don't know. I actually don't. My brain is trying to understand how that would even work.
Yeah. Also, it is a free-to-play game. I just went to the developer's website and they say it's a free-to-play. So yeah. I'm so confused. I don't know. There's not enough details on the game itself besides the fact that it's going to be, it's currently in early access, live for one weekend kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's this weekend, starting today to the 20th. So by the time you listen to this, it's already ended. But there's like no details on the website in terms of like what they're specifically trying to do. Any details on that? It's just, hey, claim your key here and be a part of the playtest.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, that's for sure. I think this is the kind of thing that's kind of just fun either way. It's either going to be a massive flop and we can kind of laugh at it, or it sparks a new genre and we go, okay, that was pretty cool. It's kind of like Pal World. I'll be honest, when that was coming out, it was in my head it was a laughing stock, and then it went up. I'm pretty sure that is technically the highest sold game this year. So
yeah,
like I guess you got to say that's an overwhelming success.
And it was a paid game too.
Yeah, and that's also with, I'm pretty sure it's on Game Pass as well. So like highest sold game of the year, and it's technically kind of free to a lot of people who wouldn't have bought it. Then yeah, that's proved me wrong. So yeah, this might be another situation. And if that does happen, that's just as fun to watch. I remember when Pal World came out and it was like, whoa, this is like, I never played it, but I was just watching so much stuff about it because it was like just fascinating. So
yeah, very new idea of like, who would have thought pairing Pokemon with first person shooters?
Yeah, legit.
That's something you go into the woods and drop acid and come back with that idea.
Legit, like I swear,
guys, I've got an idea.
I swear, whoever conceptualized that game must have done that, because I don't know how you possibly think of that. Like crazy thought, but I mean, it paid off in the end. I mean, unless they It just recently, like,
Unless they get sued to oblivion.
yeah, they remember when it first happened, and I think the Pokemon company pretty much said like we're suing, and then it never really went anywhere. And then I think just like I want to say like 3 weeks ago, it came back out again that like no, we
Yeah, but they're not
suing
suing on copyright. They're suing on patent infringement because
on what
the Pokemon company. Apparently, the Pokemon Company has patented this idea of being in a field and using
like throwing a ball to capture a thing.
Yes, something. It's
that,
like being in a field and using something to capture an animal or beast type thing.
Yeah.
Like they've patented that, which they should never have been able to patent that idea.
Yeah, that's crazy.
In the first place, but that is the thing that they're being sued on. It's not copyright infringement, it's patent infringement. So
Interesting.
Very fascinating there. We'll see how that actually affects things. But
I wonder if that's because they maybe went down the other avenue and it just didn't. They weren't going to be able to.
I don't think there's enough there to make it a powerful lawsuit.
Which is crazy because my God, it is literally just like almost
there's a
every
lot of
Pokemon
characters
is straight up. Like you can tell. I can look at them and I can name the exact Pokemon without. Like you give me 5 seconds and I'll be like, yep, that's this Pokemon, that's that Pokemon.
Yeah.
Which that to me is
but I guess
copyright.
It's like close enough to parody.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Reinterpretation that they could be covered on that part. That's at least what I've heard it described as.
Yeah, so maybe that is the way that they've gone down the patent path instead, which, that is crazy that that's a patent, that standing in a field and capturing a... Because I feel like there's other game, like as if there's not other games that you can do that in. Like even just say like
was it
Animal
Digimon?
Crossing and stuff, you could I mean it's different when you're fishing, but you could stand on the land and like throw a rod in and stuff like that. Like it's not that different, and surely there'd be other games. And maybe Digimon, I can't remember how Digimon work. They don't.
Yeah.
Did they use balls
it
in
the
that?
little handheld digital thing?
Oh, that's right.
Know.
Yeah. I used to watch it as a kid, but I can't actually remember. But yeah, that's very interesting. It's crazy how some of these companies get away with patents like that. I've just did a video on the Nemesis system, or not just the system, but Shadow of Mordor, and it's like, how were they?
Dude, that still makes me so sad.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So like one of the best. That could have been like a genre.
Imagine a Batman game with the Nemesis system.
Legit. I was saying that to a friend the other day. Imagine that, but Spider-Man, and instead of just random orcs, it's like all of the Spider-Man villains. And if you take out one of them, the other ones come and take their spots, and like it would just be so good. I don't know.
The Sinister Six and all of their like goons get updated and leveled up. Yeah.
Oh man. Even Star Wars, like imagine, because they obviously had the reputation system in Outlaws. Imagine if that was just straight up the Nemesis system. That would have taken that game, even though it had its issues. That would have given that a whole extra point on the scale, just from replacing the reputation system with the Nemesis system. Like, it's actually insane that they.
You're making me depressed, Sammy.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry, we'll get to play it in the new Wonder Woman game. That's going to be an absolute flop.
Are they making a Wonder Woman game?
Monolith is making Wonder Woman. That's I want to say either next year or the year after, and it's going to have the Nemesis system in it. So that'll be fun. That game's going to get absolutely slaughtered. I can just see it. Whether it might even be
Monolith
really
Productions Wonder Woman game reportedly still in a rough state after 3 years of development. This game's troubled.
Yeah, I can just tell it's gonna flop.
June 11th, 2024.
And like I said, I just feel like even if it's good, just the fact it's a Wonder Woman, I just feel people are gonna just hate
the fact that there's a woman in the game.
Yeah, legit. Like that will annoy people. Which is annoying because like if it does, I just feel like it's gonna not be good. But if it does turn out to be good, and then it still gets just hated, like I'm getting,
it's gonna suck.
I hate it here, man. I just why can't people be happy? It's so annoying.
Video games, that's why.
Yeah.
But let us know your thoughts on if hero shooters are dead or if there's still potential for them to be made in the future. Which ones are you excited about? What do you think of Project Ethos? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact at uplinkpodcast.com if you're listening to this wherever you find podcasts. As always, check out Sammy Boy's YouTube channels. He's got some great long-form stuff that I highly recommend you check out. Been really enjoying those. And as always, if you're into Star Wars, check out Star Wars Uplink. As always, we'll see you later, video gamers.